Hello, everyone. This is Sam Saltman from the Metal Invasion Facebook page. Excuse me. Today, I have the honor of interviewing Todd Michael Hall, the multi-talented vocalist of Riot 5. Todd, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us today.
Oh, you're very welcome, Sam. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. We'll get right into it. I'm sure there is a lot that people would love to know about you. So let's start from the beginning. What drew you first to music, and who were your very early influences?
I really think my mom had a big influence on me, even though she's not a musician, but just she loves music and she would always have it playing. And also my mom, like she had four kids in 4 years. She did have a fifth one some years later, but she had four kids in 4 years. So from my oldest brother to my sister, my next oldest brother, and then me. And so, obviously my dad was running around working a lot. So a lot of times mom was around, and if we were taking trips up north doing whatever, there was always like, we had this old Cadillac with a 8-track cassette player in it. I remember we had like
Wow.
Purple, the one that had Smoke on the Water in it. And it seems like we had some Rolling Stones. We had all sorts of goofy names, Mac Davis, Tom T. Hall. We had Bread,
Wow.
you name it. So I would say those are some of my earliest influences. I actually just went up north a couple weekends ago, and I think of Bread when I go up north. I don't even know if you remember Bread,
Oh,
but
I do.
when
Yeah.
I was a little kid, I actually thought the band was called Best of Bread because we had the Best of Bread album,
I think everybody had
And
that.
and I don't know, like I've been overdosed on bread the last few days, and ever since going up north, and I've been streaming on my Apple Music, and it's kind of reminded me, like I've been diving on, and I'm like, I think this David Gates, the singer from from Bread, that he was one of my biggest early influences because he always
Wow.
sang in this really high falsetto voice, and he was a hopeless romantic, this guy apparently, but even so, yeah, I think that's kind of where my love of music came from when I was quite young, like in kindergarten.
Wow.
My teacher told my mom that I could sing pretty well, which
Mm,
with little kids they can't always hold a tune or whatever.
sure.
And so my mom pushed me to take piano later on, and so I just loved it. My brother John was kind of into it too, so he took some guitar lessons when he was kind of young, but I think only for a few months, and he was just one of those ear musician guys that could learn how to do it by just listening and playing and locking himself up in his bedroom. And then he ended up getting bands going, and then he was very impressionable upon me, and I loved singing. And then when the 80s rolled, I mean, 80s, there was just so much good, I hate to sound like this old guy, but there was just so much good music in the 80s. That's probably good music in every decade, but
No
whatever.
argument.
We identify with it. And obviously you had that 70s going into the 80s music, and then even a lot of the pop music is awesome. I can listen to the 80s pop and still be like, oh, I remember that song. Now, some of the songs that I thought were maybe a little, I don't know, what's the word I would use? Yeah, I don't know, whatever. Some of the songs I thought were a little too wimpy for me back in the day. I
Uh-huh.
enjoy them now, I guess you'd say. Um, so yeah, and then obviously going into heavy metal and the arrival of Dio and Queensryche and Iron Maiden and all that kind of stuff. It's just, and all the fantastic singers from the 80s. There were just so many, and like having that, and so I think that was all a big influence on me, obviously. So I actually performed live with a band my first time in January, February this year. It was my 40 years for me. So it's been a
Wow.
long
That's incredible.
time.
That's very insightful. Thanks for that, Todd. Um, at what point, you said your kindergarten teacher saw that you had talent. At what point did you kind of realize that you had a special kind of voice? And then how did you develop that over time?
I don't know if I was I just enjoyed singing, and I thought, oh, but like I didn't, I didn't necessarily get feedback that I was like fantastic. You know what I mean? Like, because I did academic track when I was in like seventh and eighth grade. I didn't win, stuff like that. So, so yeah, so it wasn't like I had people blowing smoke up my ass all the time. Like, oh my God, like, I
Yeah.
like to sing. So I just kind of kept at it. And I felt like, oh, I got I have a decent voice, I'm thinking, and then after I was 15, I really didn't perform with John that long when I was 15. We had a band called Wrought Iron, and I did that for I think it was like 6 months. I don't know. I was in high school at the time, and we would play
Right.
shows, and I'd get home late on school nights and everything. But mom was tolerant because I did well in school, and, after that, I kinda got out, and oddly enough, when I sang in the band that first time, I didn't have my high voice because I had, like, this really
Hmm.
high voice, like, 7th grade academic track, I sang "Tomorrow," the theme from the Annie
Oh,
song.
yeah, sure.
I sang that a cappella for academic track in 7th grade, and, I
Wow.
think in 8th grade, I sang, "Open Arms" by Journey, but it was like I had a really high voice, I was prepubescent, and so what happened is I finally about the time I was 15, I was a late bloomer, I went through puberty and my voice changed a bit, and so, I mean, I have a decent range, but I couldn't do head voice and all that kinda jazz. So, so after I did that mess with my John when he's 16, that's or when I was 15, I then I spent the next time I went to a local teacher to try to get lessons, try to learn how to sing high. I remember, like, literally playing her a tape of Tony Harnell from TNT and just saying, like,
Oh.
"How do I sing like that?" And, I don't yeah, she didn't really know. She taught me some basic she's a wonderful, beautiful woman, Julie Meyer, but she didn't really I don't she couldn't really teach me about head voice. There was other singers in the area that would tell me a little tip or 2, but it's like, even
Yeah.
to this day, people say, "Can I get a good vocal lesson from you?" I'm like, "Look, I'm not trained. I don't know how to tell people how to access a head voice. I can maybe describe how it feels, and I can give you pointers for what attitude and stuff you might wanna take for singing live. I might be able to
Right.
talk to you about pronunciation and things of that nature and how to hold your mouth for pronunciations, but yeah, like, if you can't use your head voice, I don't know how to tell you to use your head.
Sure.
But
That's talent.
even so I over that break with John, I learned how to use my head voice and ended up getting back together with him, late 16, maybe early 17 years old. And then that's when we actually did Harlot and did originals and recorded for the first time and all that kind of jazz.
Yeah, very cool. Thank
So
you.
so I guess I don't know. I just kind of, I don't know. I just kept doing it. I guess enough people didn't tell me I sucked that I kept going.
Now it's going the other way.
Yeah, I this will probably sound I hope this doesn't sound horrible, but sometimes I do listen to some people and I wonder like, well, because their voices are maybe a little harsh sounding, I guess you'd say. But in the hard rock world, you can do that, but
Yeah.
I sometimes listen to people and think, wow, that's weird. Like what made him think that they could be a singer? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I'm just too used to like the whole opera thing and you have this beautiful clean voice. And so I don't know. What do I know? I'm just some
Well, you do that part and they can do that part and
yeah,
different tastes.
that's the weird part, for me. But yeah, I won't name any bands in particular, but I've got bands where I'm like, but I guess it's people I can't sing anything like. I'm like, wow, all right, cool. You know.
Right. Um, well, things definitely changed pretty big when you got involved with Riot. And can you give me an idea of what the transition was like joining a band with such a long, rich, and varied history?
Yeah, I mean, I had a break. I mean, after I finished college, I messed around with my brother John with a while for a while doing stuff, and then about '96, I was out of it, and so I really didn't start until 2004 when I got into Burning Star, and then I didn't even release an album with them until 2009. It took forever. We played out a couple shows, 2008, 2009, and so I think the weirdest part for me with Riot was I was kinda used to Burning Star where it was, like, very little activity, took forever for, an album that, happened and stuff like that, and so I think that was the biggest change for me with Riot is just, that's why 'cause when I first got in Riot, I was in Burning Star and in Reverence and in Riot, and it was kinda like I ended up after a year or so, I had to jettison those other 2 bands. I remember the guys in
Right.
Reverence were pretty bummed with me and stuff, but I just didn't realize, like, I don't have enough time to do all that. So, I mean, God, I look at Riot like last year, I had between Riot and I had some personal shows locally, I had like 44 shows, which, when you're working full time, you have a family, that's quite a few shows. Um,
It is.
this year has been much easier. So I would say, yeah, I mean, and I think to me it was, I had to catch up to speed. Like I kind of had lost track of Riot. I really didn't pay attention to Riot during the '90s. When they were putting out their 6 albums with Mike DeMeo,
Yeah.
that in the early aughts, and so, it was just a matter of catching speed. So, I mean, but for me, yeah, I definitely I was very aware of Riot from the older days, and I knew they had a great
Right.
legacy and a great history. I just didn't totally understand everything, and what's weird is I think of it now, and God, I've been in the band for because I actually was announced. I mean, I started working with them in the summer of 2013. I wasn't announced until November, but I was already writing songs with them by then. So yeah, it's weird. Yeah, I'm coming up on 12 years already, so it's
Right.
amazing how the time has flown. Um, and now I feel a little bit old hat with it. You know, you go in and out. Sometimes, Riot's one of those bands. It's I don't know. It's kind of hard to describe because there is this great legacy of music, and because of that, I often describe Riot as like we punch above our weight in the sense that we get invited to play festivals and stuff, and it isn't because we have a 500,000 monthly listeners on Spotify. I think it's just because we have this great back catalog um, and our Spotify is a little screwed up anyway because we're Riot and we're Riot 5, so to
Yeah.
speak, and so it's split between the 2. But even I think, and I don't wanna sound braggadocious, but I think we put on a good show too,
Uh,
I think we put on a good show, so, like, I look at the Rock Hard Festival that we did just last year, and I feel like that was kind of a reward to us doing a great job. I think it was in 2016 when we were there the time before, because when we were there last year, they gave us the spot right before the headliner and on a weekend, or whatever. And really, that's kind of punching above our weight because if you look at other things, they might not tell you that that's where we should be. But I think we had done a good job for them in 2016. So they thought, we think these guys can come out and kick butt,
they
and
know.
yeah. So I
They
really
know what we
appreciate
know.
I appreciate, that, and well, I think we did do a great job the second time too. So, and I had a lot of fun. It's an awesome show to play. So I don't even know if I answered your
You,
question. Sorry, I went all
you
over.
did. No, it's a very open-ended question, and I appreciate your insights. So kind of along that line, you've now done three albums, three studio albums with Riot 5, Unleash the Fire, Armor of Light, and last year's Mean Streets. Um, since 2013, 2014, when you started, how do you think the perception of you and the band have changed in people's eyes?
I think that sorry, my phone's ringing in the other ring, and I don't want it to interrupt us, but I can't run and grab it at this point. Um, that's tough to say. It's so weird for me. I think it just varies because it can vary around the world too. It was funny. I know when we were playing some shows in Spain, I remember the promoter there saying, it seems like there's younger people at the shows, and
Mhm.
like with the Mean Streets album, it seemed like, but then you go to other places where maybe that doesn't seem true. So it just I don't know, man. I think um, I think at first when I first got in the band, there was that, well, will people accept us and all that jazz,
Right.
and I think now after 12 years, it's a little more like, there's this little pocket of people that are like, "Well, we listen to the original Riot." Well, part of me would argue, like, I don't even know how you define the original Riot because, like, after the first album, they had turnover, and after the second album, they had turnover, and after the third album, the only person remaining was Mark. So I mean, okay,
Yeah.
well, what's the original Riot even?
Yeah, exactly.
So whatever. I'm not gonna, whatever. I don't, I'm not gonna get into that. It's like if that okay,
Yeah,
but I think, for the most part, I think we're pretty accepted as Riot. When we
I
walk
agree.
around, people chant Riot. They don't chant Riot 5.
No.
So
Yeah. No, I've seen a pretty dramatic change myself
yeah.
from the beginning, and what you guys have done an incredible job of creating your own identity, and it's really great to see. You don't hear much about that little pocket you were talking about. It was a bigger pocket, not
At
anymore.
first, for me, it's like, okay, just don't listen, I guess, if you don't want to. I think, most people have gotten over that. And I think that, you know, I feel like more of a long-term member of the band, but at the same time, I really still have this feeling that it's kind of, Mike and Donnie are the guys, and certainly Frank has a bit more of a connection than me because he was on an album with Mark and actually spent a significant
Yeah.
time with Mark.
Well, those guys are
Um,
decades, but you're now over a decade, which
Yeah,
is,
it's funny
uh,
to think about. Yeah, so I don't know. We'll see. I don't know. We just
yeah,
kind of, it's interesting. There's a part of me that wonders like how much longer it can go. It feels like maybe it's dwindling down, coming to a close, but I just don't know. It's a weird situation. Obviously, everybody's getting older. Donnie's not, he's what, 62 now or something, and they're coming
just
up
a
on.
child. He's a kid.
Yeah, I mean, I know, but, and I don't know, it's just the whole thing, just go play shows and people to get out and afford to do it and people be able to get away and leave their work and there's always those logistical issues too that make
Sure.
it challenging.
Sure.
So you get
Well, yeah, go
I
ahead.
think well, I was gonna say we have 9 months off without a show. So my guess is about next May when we have a show again, there'll be a lot of excitement to play a show again. So
Absolutely. I
but
plan on being there wherever it is.
yeah,
Um, okay, so let's change subjects a little bit. Step back to 2019 and your appearance on the show The Voice. Sure you've talked about this a bit, but I think a lot of people would like to hear about it. Like what inspired you to audition for a very mainstream show, given your metal background?
yeah. Yeah, and I actually tried out in 19 and I recorded the blind audition in 19. But it actually didn't air until February of 2020. But yeah, so inspiration wise, I was at the time I was kind of dabbling with, writing some of my own music and which when I write with an acoustic guitar, it just comes out sounding like pop stuff anyway. So I thought, well, I'm doing some of that. So if I build up some notoriety, maybe it'll help that. If nothing else, it'll help Riot, whatever. But I think there was also that notion of can you do it? We almost talked about earlier. Like it's not like I didn't win academic track. It's not like I've sold tons of albums and made, what I mean, all that stuff. So I mean, there's that. Yeah, I wonder if I'm good enough to get on it or whatever.
Mm,
So I think there was that element, um, so I don't know. So I just thought, I wonder what would happen. It'd be fun because a lot of I mean, dude, I don't really tend to watch those shows, and this is going to sound. Hopefully, this is sound arrogant, but sometimes I watch the shows. I'm thinking, oh my god, like wow, I could just do so much better than that, or whatever. And so I guess I just put my money where my mouth is and went on. But in reality, like I don't want people to think like I don't I mean, maybe I feel a little more validated getting on the show, but the reality is getting on the show is a function of ticking quite a few boxes. So, I mean, okay, there's some horrible singers, especially when you look at like you know, uh, American Idol, how they used to always have
right.
horrible people on
Sure.
just for funny.
For
Um,
ratings.
and there's not a lot of that when you're looking at The Voice. I mean, the people that are on there are generally pretty darn good singers. Some young, most of them young, some of the older ones, some of them doing it for a living and all that jazz. But the reality is, so I guess what I'm saying is there's really a ton of good singers out there but to get on a show like that, you got to tick some other boxes for them. Your personality's got to be,
Sure.
right for TV. And in my case, I think they just like the fact that I was this old guy that, didn't
Yeah.
look too old and rocked out, and they don't get very
And
many
metal.
rockers. Yeah, well,
Yeah.
the fact that I was out there wailing rock and roll, I think they're like, oh, well, because for them, they're trying to put on something that casts as wide of a net to grab people as they can. And let's
Sure.
face it, if everything is hip hop and everything's country, well, then there's not so much for the rock, and so there is a segment of people that wouldn't mind hearing some rock, even though everyone knows full well it's going to be tough for a rocker to win it. So in any event, I guess what I'm saying is I got in because I tick some boxes, not really
Yeah.
just because I'm such an awesome singer or
I don't know. That Jukebox Hero, that
whatever.
was pretty memorable.
Yeah, I felt like I kicked some butt on that one.
So,
Getting to hit the high head voice notes on national TV, I was like,
yeah. So that kind of brings it to the next question. You made it to the third song, which I know that the show kind of picks the songs for you. You don't get to pick
yeah,
what you want.
they control your options. Yeah.
And so you sang Someone to Love by One Republic, a decidedly not heavy song.
No, no.
Um, Given the option, was there a song that you would have picked to
Well,
sing with you?
they had gotten me to, they had given me a limited list and then said I had to pick four from that list, and then two of the four had to be recent songs, within the last decade.
Okay.
So that kind of made my life difficult. I do remember that Holy Diver was on the list, and I remember being incredibly surprised by that.
Wow.
So Holy Diver was one of my four. I also had Roxanne by the Police as one of my four.
Mm,
And then, frankly, I can't remember what the other one. Somebody to Love by One Republic was one. And frankly, I didn't even know that song, but my roommate um, had it. Sam Wilco, he went by. He was. he had suggested the songs. He knew it had that high note on the chorus, and I think they kind of went with that because basically then everybody had a ballad, you know. And in
Okay.
looking back in it, I certainly wish I would have had a different song. I didn't have a great performance of the song anyway, but I wish I would have had a different song, something that rocked out, so I could at least gone out rocking. But there was a fellow there named Michael who did a kind of a pop song with a lot of falsetto singing in it, and he just really knocked it out of the park on that
Uh-huh.
song. It was a song he'd had a lot of experience with, and he did a great job. So I don't think it's short of standing on my head, you know, whatever. I don't think there was anything I could have done to win that. And I don't think I'd have gotten much further anyway because my team was pretty stacked. The 1 and 2 finishers were on my team.
I didn't realize
So
that.
so yeah, the guy who won it, Todd Tillman, was on my team, and so was the second one. Oh my gosh, I can't remember her name, but it's escaping me right this moment. But yeah, she was on my team. Yeah, so yeah, it would have been real tough. Yeah.
Well, thanks. That's insightful. I think people know some of that, but I think that was a lot of new information. I know it was for me. So thanks for sharing. Um, Step back to Riot here for a minute. Um, this time a Riot Live question.
Mhm.
With such a long, varied history, so many albums, 5 singers, including yourself, how does the band decide which songs to play live on any given tour or even any given night?
You know, it's really tough in a way because you know we want to bring because we have some people that'll come see us a lot, and you got some people that don't.
Right.
And certainly the people that you know that come see you pretty regular, they appreciate you pulling out some things they haven't heard before. But the challenge you have, those people that don't come to see you a lot, they don't appreciate you pulling out stuff they haven't heard. You know, I mean, so it can be really tough. Obviously, you know, Thundersteel's a pretty big album, and we tend to be more based in the later stuff. So Thundersteel, we tend to play 5 or 6 songs off Thundersteel every time. I sometimes tease Donnie about it. So I'm like, Jesus, Donnie, is that a crutch? You like gotta play it, but you know, people respond to the song.
Yeah.
You know, are
Does
you
anyone
really
ever
gonna
complain about that?
yeah, I mean, are you gonna not play Flight of the Warrior, you know, and stuff like you know, so or Johnny's back, and that will be like, oh, and it's funny. We have these comical episodes. We're like, oh my god, you can't get rid of that. You can't get rid of that, and we do try. You know, we'll dig deep now. Like I remember we pulled out "You Burn in Me"
Mhm.
from the Rhett Forrester era.
Yeah.
We're like, oh, this is a cool song. Let's play this one. But you know, we didn't get real good responses from it. People are like, oh,
Uh-huh.
okay, yeah, that's cool. But like they weren't going nuts, you know. So that's part of the hard part too, you know. So it's always a struggle. I think for us, you know, I try to push, well, can't we try to play at least one song off each Riot 5 album, you know, and stuff like that. And one of the things that I don't know if people realize it, but when you look because Donnie goes all the way back to Thundersteel, and because Mike was on all the DeMeo albums, which we don't tend to play a lot of the DeMeo stuff. Uh,
Right.
and you know, but if you look at it, really, usually it depends on what shows we're playing, obviously. But a lot of times, about 3/4 of our set is something that was written while one of the guys in the band currently in the band was in the band. So that's one of those funny things, you know, because sometimes there's a, oh, you guys are tribute to this and that. And I mean, I just went to go see Foreigner, right? Just a couple weeks ago.
Uh,
And I love Foreigner.
yeah.
But the reality is there's not, I mean, and I'm not knocking them necessarily, but a
Right.
little goofy because there's not an original member in the band at all. Like, so no one who wrote any of those songs is in the band.
Yeah.
And so at that point, it's a little harder to argue the tribute thing. But to me, that's kind of the difference with us. So I think ultimately, and not that we necessarily pick songs because of that, but I think because Donnie's in the band and he's like a principal writer, we tend to stick toward what I would call the power metal Riot.
Yeah.
But we do pick up some of the older stuff. But a lot of that older stuff, especially the original stuff, it tends to fit real well with it anyway, especially the way we play it maybe nowadays or whatever.
Well, I gotta say, the way you sing Guy Speranza is just you sound so much like him.
Oh,
And
thank you.
that's not it's not how you sound on the Riot 5 records, but you are spot on with that material, and I
I
know people
I
love that.
I always struggle with who's my favorite because I mean, first of all, I love Rhett Forrester, great attitude and great screaming, but I don't have a voice like his. I don't in my mind. I feel like my voice is more like Tony Moore and more like Guy
Yeah.
Speranza, and so I tend to gravitate to them more singers. And no knock on Mike DeMeo either, but he's got more of a David Coverdale bluesy thing going on,
Right.
and that's not really my thing so much, as far as what I'm capable of. So I don't know. I tended to gravitate more toward cleaner singers and people that I could feel like I could sing along with. You know what I mean?
Sure.
But in any event, yeah. So our sets tend to be mostly Tony Moore, Todd Hall, and Guy Speranza, but we'll slide in one or two of the other ones just to. So yeah, I don't know. I don't even know if I answered your question. Basically, it's complicated. There are
It is.
songs that you feel like you have to play. Obviously, we can't
Right.
not play Thundersteel. Um, and then there's,
Something.
we do try to slide some. I remember we played Overdrive for a while, and
Yeah.
it goes over okay, stuff like that. And I remember, when we toured with uh, with Primal Fear, we were whipping out Heart of a Lion, and we were whipping out
Hmm.
Caught in the Witch's Eye and stuff like that. But it's just so hard, and then sometimes you look at different songs. You look at a Caught in the Witch's Eye, and then you say, well, it's kind of got a similar groove or tempo or whatever to Crimson Storm, Sign of the Crimson Storm, which also has a very similar feel to Metal Soldiers.
Right.
Um, so consequently, you don't feel like you can put all those in the set. And I'm kind of like, I was just thinking the other day, like, man, we should, because we used to play Metal Soldiers a bit when I first started. I feel like, man, let's put that back in, and take Crimson Storm out because we've gotten right. But trying to get
Huh.
Donnie to take Crimson Storm out is gonna be next to impossible.
Well, you hit some of your most incredible notes on
Yeah.
that song. I mean,
So,
I get
so
the challenge. That's why
it's
the
definitely a
question, yeah, so tough. Um, Thank you again. And for what it's worth, I think you guys do an incredible job. Obviously, I've seen you quite a few times, and it is always different, but it's always amazing. And I think
yeah,
you do a great job of mixing it up.
thank you. And we try. There's certain core songs you play, and then we try to mix up some of the other ones. Do the best you can.
Um, so with all those songs, and some of which you sing a lot and have sang many times, are there a couple of them that you just absolutely love to sing? You look forward to every night.
I mean, there's, obviously like Thundersteel, people go ape shit for it every night.
Never
Um,
gets old.
yeah, like melodically speaking, it's not exactly my favorite.
Yeah.
One that sticks out in my head melodically speaking is Black Leather. I don't know why. We drank till
Oh
the
yeah.
sunrise, rode again, singing Johnny's back. I don't know why that melody sticks out in my head. Flight of the Warrior is certainly fun to sing. People tend to really like to me, like I don't feel like Swords of Tequila is any sort of vocal extravaganza, but that
Right.
it's fun to sing it. Actually, one that we whipped out a little bit recently was because we used to play it, but then we hadn't for a while. Was through the fire and the light. I can't think of it. Oh my God, tough fire down under. Um,
Run for your life.
I'm a soda, lightning strikes out. Altar of the King. Sorry.
Oh yeah.
Alter the King, like that one, melodically speaking, there's some kind of fun things, to the power in the glory. You I was
Okay,
power.
so
Yeah, so
put a
so
check mark to that one.
yeah, so there's some songs where I mean, Sign of the Crimson Storm's kind of one of those because you got that silly third verse where you're like in the shadows on the and all of a sudden you're like you know, that
Yeah,
was kind of fun, feeling like you get to like sometimes it feels like the high notes are like a laser to people's ears, and it
they
feels
are.
good to just be like, I think I'm hurting people a little bit with this one, that sort of thing.
No, it's you're absolutely right. That's what people want to hear from you. I mean, they want to hear all of it, but that
Yeah,
really
yeah.
grabs. Um,
But there's some other ones too, though, like some of the when you look at something that involves Rhett Forrester, um, oh my God, the Rhett Forrester Restless Breed. That one's actually quite fun to sing because it actually uses a lot of that low voice. When the sun goes down, and and so that's kind of, so yeah, I don't know.
that's cool.
I think ultimately, like if you've got people out there that are smiling at you and having a good time and you're getting the energy from it, it's pretty fun, no matter what. Unless you've got a song that you're really just like, oh, I can't sing this, it's difficult for me to sing, or I'm too tired to sing, or I'm sick because or so I'm incapable of
Oh
singing, stuff
yeah.
like that. But in general, where it's tough is like when you're just in a situation where like it's crickets and there's nobody there, or that's why like I can't stand rehearsals. It's going to sound horrible, but man, in order to sing this stuff, it takes energy, and you feed off the energy of people. And so like when there's people there that are enjoying it, I get through the set, and yeah, my voice is a little tired after, but I don't feel like I'm like damaging my voice, and I feel kind of almost invincible at times, vocally speaking. And
That's great.
whereas you're just at a rehearsal, sometimes it's like it just drags on you, like I don't want to sing this, So
Well, it definitely shows during the shows how much you love doing it and the
yeah,
whole band.
yeah. I'm there's lots of, and this isn't even part of your question, but there's lots of weird theories about singing. Like I've heard people describe your voice as like a muscle, and you got to practice it to get it. And I'm like, that's bullshit to me. I don't think your vocal cords are a muscle, but maybe I'm wrong. I personally think it's more like the more you lose it, the worse it's gonna. The more you use it, like I feel like it's like this finite resource. So I'm not going to sit and sing a whole bunch right before I go on tour to warm up for the tour. Like that to me is borders on ridiculous. Why would I do that? Why you rest? To me, vocal rest is your best thing. You
Mm,
go to a show and you don't talk. You don't. So for me to rehearse for shows and stuff like that, I really am just listening to the songs, and I'm
okay.
singing along like
Yeah,
stuff, but
very
just
interesting.
making sure I know it. So I'm not one of those singers that's out practicing singing all the time, even though I do sing all the time. But I mean, full throated singing, I'm not doing that all.
Okay, awesome. Great. Thank you again. Um, you've done a few solo albums outside of Riot 5 in the
Okay.
last few years. Two of them as collaborations with Kurt Vanderhoof of Metal Church.
Yeah.
2021 Sonic Healing, 2024's Off the Rails. Both albums fantastic hard rock albums, seem to be pretty well received.
Thanks.
Any other future plans with Kurt at this point?
Yeah, we've played around with some stuff. I thought about doing some heavier stuff. He wrote some heavy songs for me, and
Mm.
we had some nice moments in there. But I don't know if one of the things you have with Kurt is he sees me as like this, you know, golden voiced singer, so it makes
Wow,
him envision certain types of music,
that's
um, and so yeah, but no, we're definitely playing around, and we had, he tried, so I think we have to get together. He's been busy on a couple other projects, but he's telling me he's a couple of weeks, actually just a short few weeks from being able to get together with me and maybe say, okay, what do we want to try again? And I don't know, I don't know, my problem is I'm a bit eclectic. I listen to something like, oh, I really like that, and then I'm like, oh, I really like that, and but you can't be eclectic on one album. You pretty much have to decide on a
mm,
path and go. Um, and but I really do love the melodic hard rock stuff that we've done. I like those previous two albums. Uh,
yeah.
but yeah, just trying to. I'm I don't know. In the end, it's all just I don't know how much it matters. Whatever. I'm just trying to have some fun. So we'll see. We'll see what Kurt and I come up with. But
All right.
I have a feeling we'll definitely do something again. Um,
Awesome.
we almost put together like a heavy project thing, but then he ended up stealing the bass player for his own project, and then going off doing something else. So I guess
Like a super group kind of thing?
well, no, well, I can't give any details. All
Okay.
I'm saying is like, I thought we had something else going, and then it turned into something. I was like, oh, nothing much is happening. I haven't heard any songs or anything. And then Joe from the Architect was like, oh no, he's off doing this. I'm like, okay,
Mhm.
all right. I got left behind, but whatever. I'm not mad at anybody. I'm just teasing them. That was kind of,
Right, of course.
but I'm sure
Uh,
I'll have more going. I'm bugging the guys to finish another Riot album. It's just they get busy and things get a little slow. I was like, man, during this break, it'd be nice to get a whole other album written, but I don't know. It's going pretty slow so far. We'll see.
well, Mean Street's a little over a year old. So yeah, I guess it's getting time. I do have to ask, every once in a while I turn on, the internet and there's another song from Todd doing a cover
Yeah, yeah.
that, I have no idea it's coming. Boston, Queensryche, Crimson Glory, Judas Priest, and then the unbelievable Gods of Thunder by Malice that you just did.
That
I
that
mean,
that one that
wow,
one was fun. The funny thing, dude, that was my first take. Like
that's
I look well, I mean,
incredible.
obviously I know the song well because I've been
Yeah,
listening to it since I was a teenager, and it's never been, I mean, not that I listen to Malice every day or even every week, but it's never been real far out of my rotation, if you know what I mean.
yeah.
and he's got that James Neal. He's got a bit more of a rasp, and a little more attitude in his delivery than me. But yeah, I don't know. There's something about the note range. I've always felt like I could, sing, what he sings fairly well. So our voices must be similar. So between that and knowing the song, and I listened to it a few times, and I have the lyrics off to the side, so I hopefully I don't screw them up. And so it's just Mary, you know. So yeah, that was a one taker. I was like, damn, I think
Yeah,
that sounded
wow.
pretty good, and I went with it. So
That blew me away because,
they don't always go down that easy. But yeah, that one's kind of fun too, because just that chorus, he just goes up so high that it just sounds
oh,
like, and it kind of the funny my kids are teasing me because when I get going, I don't know, my forehead has a bit of a groove, I guess, in the middle of my forehead. And if you were to feel it, there's a groove there. I don't know if you can always see it, but when I get singing, it looks like there's a vein or something popping out of my
well,
forehead. And
I'm gonna look now.
yeah, rewatch it. My family was teasing me like, "Yeah, your freaking veins popping out of your head or whatever on that."
Well,
And
you're picking. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
well, I was going to say the funny thing is, it kind of looks like I'm screaming my head off, and maybe I am, but I don't know. I don't feel like because when I record that, the whole shtick, what I'm doing is I'm doing a live vocal cover where I'm doing it from beginning to end. So I'm
Right.
hitting the start button and I'm recording it from beginning to end, all one take. And so the whole point is, people don't understand this, but when you record in the studio, you can record totally different than when you sing something live. So that was kind of my fantasy, if you will, or my like to me, I feel like I'm trying to hold a bar up. That's why I like obviously Queensryche, and doing Take Hold of Flame was a big one for me because Jeff was always my favorite, really, and such a big influence on me. So to me, I felt like by being able to do that song, I'm not saying I'm as good as Jeff, never,
Hmm.
but whatever. I'm just saying like, hey Jeff, am I worthy now? Like I can do this song at least once. You know what I mean? Like I couldn't imagine. And the other thing is like, I'm trying to do it exactly like they did. What's funny is
Yeah.
like sometimes people will listen to it and they'll post a comment to one of my things. They'll say, yeah, you pretty much hit all the notes or something like that. Or, you only, and I'll be like, dude, it's note for note, exactly like you know what I'm saying? Like I like study these and I try to do it. Now, granted, there's sometimes where the way they do their vibrato or something, might be a little different. Like for James Neal, some of those notes that he held out, what I don't know that I did that exactly the same, but I'm saying I'm hitting the
Mm.
same
You
notes,
did.
and that's kind of my thing. I like trying to say, look,
You
I can do
did.
it. And I think the other thing I'm doing is I'm right now what I'm just having fun with is just going and picking the bands that influenced me when I was younger. When I was trying to learn how to sing head voice, these are the people that I was singing along with. So I've got a few more in mind that I want to release. Actually, I've been working on Warrior lately, and that one's a tough one for me because that friggin' Paramore McCartney's got a little bit of that rasp in his
Uh-huh.
voice, and so like I can hit the note, but it comes out so clean that it just sounds a little bit thinner than when he's just going, you know. Um, but yeah, so I was having fun trying to record that. And that one I didn't do in one
Which warrior?
Warrior. I was doing the song Fighting for the Earth.
Fighting for the Earth. Oh my gosh.
And
Wow.
yeah, it's weird that album because I'm trying to pick a song to do. Like, there's the one song Defenders of Creation, and it's got that, wisdom of the elders leading, and then it gets that it's where it just fucking nails that note right at the beginning of the song. And I'm like, oh, I want to do that. But then after that, the song's just like defenders of creation. And it doesn't, there's not as much going on. So yeah, I'm like, yeah, I guess I'll do Fighting for the Earth. Like it's hard because I also try to pick a song. A lot of songs have a call and response chorus, and that makes it really tough to do it live because you don't notice, but um, like if you were to look at um, bands when they sing it live, like the singer will hold the microphone out to the crowd for part of it,
Yeah.
stuff like that. And so when I'm trying to reproduce it, like I don't want to just I don't want to do TNT where it's like yeah everyone's a star, I let the background sing it, and then I'm like shining in
Oh
the
yeah.
spotlight
Oh
tonight,
yeah.
like I want to do the whole thing, and so that rules out some songs too. Because man, there's some songs when you try to sing that whole sing and hit all the, you try to sing the whole thing and hit all the
Mm.
notes, man, you just fucking can't do it. I mean, it
Tony
just
Harnell, my
out,
gosh.
especially because I'm trying to match someone else's range and tone and all that, and it's hard. I mean, I know some people be like, "Oh, he can sing anything." No, I can't sing anything. It's got to be able to fit my voice, and I mean, I can sing a lot of stuff, but
I
there's
mean, you did Midnight
yeah.
also, you know.
Yeah, and I feel like Midnight, there's certain singers, you feel a little more kinship with in terms of where your vocal pocket is and stuff like
Yeah.
you can do it. Although that song's a tough one, and what's funny about that one is the note placement. That love note, like I was just doing it falsetto right there, but that's one where I can go and I can hit it with a chest voice. But the problem is when I come to that and I wail it out in a chest voice, love, that's chest voice, right? That's me just fucking wailing it. But you can tell it's a little bit of a hot rocket to hold on to. And so when I sing the whole thing, the whole song from beginning to end, and I try to do it
Yeah.
chest voice, when I get to the end, I'm starting to wimp, I'm starting to get unstable on it. It's waving on me. It
Mm.
doesn't sound as good. So I had to learn how to sing it with like a mixed voice. So that's why that song it took me, a few tries because I had to learn how to sing it. So I'm not singing it in falsetto, but I'm also not singing it in the max chest voice. It's more of it's hard to describe. It's like a mixed voice where you're trying to be louder on it, but you got to control it a little bit. So yeah, there's all those little tricks. Yeah, singing those things is not easy. But you'll the funny thing is that note is in a weird spot because it doesn't sound like it's that high of a note, but the reason it's a weird spot is it's right where like uh, your head voice, it's too low for your head voice, but a little too high for full chest voice. So it's this really, really weird spot. So yeah, a lot of people might think, oh, well, that's gotta be an easy note to hit because it's not as high as that. But yeah, that's easy. Like if you look at the gods of thunder, those chorus notes are easier for me to hit than the notes on lonely, even though they're higher. But it's just because it's in a better spot of my range.
Mm.
So it's
Yeah, that's really interesting.
there's little weird things like that people don't know. Because yeah, Gods of Thunder,
Yeah.
I held it in one take, and I'm hitting it, and I'm loud, and it's like I'm having fun. I finish the song, I'm like, it sounds great, and I could record it again. Whereas you got other songs, like I remember when I was recording "Take Hold of Flame," it was like, man, you pretty much got one, maybe two takes, and if you don't like them, you're coming back another day. And that was one too. That sorry, you didn't even ask a question about this, but whatever.
I'm
That
all ears.
take hold of flame was one of those like that where like I had to it's hard to I don't people probably don't really understand if they're not a singer, but to sing live is not the same as singing in the studio. Live, I call it a facsimile, and I don't mean that in a bad way, but what you're trying to do is produce the song and hit all the notes, but do it with as little energy and as little effort and as little taxation on your voice as possible. And so, in the studio, you can add a little more attitude and a little more whatever to it because you can record just a little spot, and you can punch in and punch out. I can come back the next day if I'm tired, whatever. Whereas live or like one of these live vocal covers, I got this, one shot to go do it from beginning to end. And
Yeah. Wow.
yeah, and if like I said, take hold of flame, that's taxing enough that if you don't, you pretty much have to walk in fresh. You've got one, maybe two tries. After that, you're gonna have vocal deterioration. By the time you get to the end of the song, you won't sound good. So God, how would you sing Queensryche stuff all night? Well, part of the way Jeff does it now is he alters some melodies and stuff to make
Yeah.
it easier, and he has people that sing stuff with him. Now
Right.
Todd Latour, a different story. He tends to sing it all and do all that, but I don't know, man. I don't know. I,
Uh,
I don't know
so
if
do you
I'd
think
want to.
that, go ahead.
It's weird because I guess the Riot stuff is hard too, but it fits my vocal pocket. So I'm like, you know what I mean? It works for me.
It
I'm
does.
not I'm not invincible. I'm not I can't sing anything all night and whatever have you, but
Well, you're obviously very careful with your voice and what you do with it and how you use it, as you've kind of said, and that makes sense why you're still able to sing the way you do.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
it definitely helps. I mean, that's the funny thing for me. I actually listened to like the original Harlot album from '88 or whatever, and I'm like, oh wow, I could sing that better now than
hmm,
back then.
yeah, it's
So
impressive.
yeah.
Um, well, Todd, thank you so much for your time. I mean, so many great answers, information.
And I didn't
You
even
know,
let you get to all your questions, you poor thing.
that's okay. That's all right. These are good.
I answered all sorts of questions you didn't even ask.
Is there something else you want to add?
I know. I just feel bad because I always tell myself I'm not going to give long answers, but I don't know. I
Hey, the
guess you
whole
got.
plan was to write more questions than I'd ever ask.
All right, good, good.
But if
So,
there's something, that you wanted to, tell everybody or me or whatever, and we didn't get to that, please.
I would say the biggest thing is like, um, you know, I'm in this position where I've loved music, I've loved singing forever, and and it's funny. There's a saying, comparison is the surest way to kill joy, and it's like, sometimes being a musician can be really discouraging, especially if you start comparing yourself to what other people have done and accomplished and whatnot have you, and but for me, I tend to be more of a glass half full kind of guy. I tend to focus on positive things and all that. And right now, I mean, I would say, geez, thinking back and thinking at this point, I'd still have the ability to play shows and put out albums and have somebody want to interview me and even listen to my stuff or whatever have you. And yeah, the numbers aren't huge, but it's like still, it's a part of my life for which I thank God every day. And I'm only able to thank it because there's people like you and everyone out there that listens and pays attention. And it's very meaningful for me. And I just say I really appreciate everybody that
Uh,
ever gives it a listen and watches a YouTube video or whatever.
well, we really appreciate you. Believe me, it's you've made your mark and continue to do that, and it's really been fun to watch.
Thank
I do have one other quick question.
you. Yeah, yeah.
When are we going to see you singing the national anthem on a Lions game?
How? I don't know. I mean, they gotta invite me down there, I keep thinking like, because I do this big high note at the end and with my buddy, and we've done it at the local game here. And actually, I did one for they had the hockey tournament here, the Memorial Cup hockey tournament, and it
Yeah.
was actually nationally televised. I mean, on some, I don't know what
Mm,
channel, but and part of me keeps thinking, why isn't it people, don't go crazy? And I don't, but whatever, I don't know, different things because sometimes I see people, oh, this national anthem is viral, and I listen, I'm like, what's so special about that? But whatever, I
for
don't know.
sure.
But certainly if they invited me, I would. But I don't, my guess is you kind of got to go ask people for that. And I don't,
Uh-huh.
I wait for people to come to me. I'm not out trying to
Mm,
it. So
okay. Well, that would be something that I sure would love to see, and I know a lot of people would
all right.
too.
Well, I guess you'll have to call the Lions and send them a link to one of in my national anthem performance. Say, man, you should get this cat.
You probably know that I would do that,
Yeah,
and
you probably would, wouldn't you?
that I
So
will.
we'll see.
So,
We'll see if they call.
again, Todd, thank you so much. It's really been a pleasure. A lot of great information that I didn't know, and I think everyone will get a lot out of this. So, thank you, and best of luck to you and Riot 5 in the future.
All right. Thank you, Sam.
Thanks.